Hi everyone, welcome back. Today's tutorial is going to be about the Cage Transform tool, and that is the last transformation tool in our toolbox, minus the crop tool, which I've shown a little bit previous in other examples, and will probably show you in this. The Cage Transform tool basically allows us to deform a selection within a range. And just a reminder that any selection tool you use in GimpShop, even including Photoshop, when you select an active area, that is the area you're manipulating. So when you are working with, say, paintbrush or paint can, if you were to select an area, like a quick selection, and then use your paint to paint that area, you would not paint the rest of your image. And I can show you quickly what I'm talking about here, just by selecting the ear. Here I have an active selection, and I switch to my paintbrush. And I can, create a neon green or something, make it more interesting. And when I paint now, I can only paint inside my selection. I can't paint outside that selection. So keep that in mind for manipulation. That's anything I paint with, anything I do applies the same rules. So again, we'll just Control Z back to the selection, maybe lower the opacity to give you an idea. This can be kind of useful in terms of touch-ups and things like that you do in very subtle ways up close. But the idea is I can adjust my opacity for that selection as I go. And the idea is I can't do anything outside that selection. So we're just going to Control Z back before the selection. We're going to grab our Cage Transform tool. And when we're doing the Cage Transform, what we do here is click around the eye and join up our selection. If you can see, that makes my circle orange. I'm going to click on the circle, and now I can Cage Transform. I pull my sliders out, and I can make this eye bigger, etc., etc. And we can virtually transform the look and the feel of this image. The other aspect of this, obviously using it, I hit Enter to apply the transformation, and now I have all kinds of jagged, interesting looks to this. So the other thing I can do is grab my clone stamp tool here to do some touch-ups. And I want to hit Control to make a selection and left click, hold that down. And now you can see that I'm going to take a sample from this circle that's remaining there while I adjust and blend around the creature's eye. And again, I can make that opacity lower so that I'm doing a subtle adjustment here. Where I'm not really, making too jagged a line and getting myself even more work to do. Now, when it comes to in here, maybe I want to sample the hair and kind of add some more hair down here just to blend that area in. And as you can see, just to give it a more natural look. And we're starting to get a little bit better blending. Hit Control again. And this, again, is the clone stamp tool. How do I take that sample of hair? I hit Control, and I hold it down. I left click. That gives me a sample area. So when I want to move around, obviously I would take a sample closer to the region I want to move to. So again, here I'd like to take a sample of this. I want to move it over a little bit more, and down here a little bit more. And as I can see, when I hold Control down, it gives me where my crosshair is, tells me where I'm sampling from. So just bringing that around. Maybe I want to lower my brush size here. And we just lower that size down. Give myself a little bit more room to work, so that's probably better there. I want to get into here. Move myself back. Again, my opacity is low so that my blending looks good, as opposed to a high opacity, which would give me ridges and lines. I'm just going to touch up the whiskers too. I want the whiskers to stay there and make that a little more accurate. Again, I can go back up in my opacity to 100, take a sample of the whisker and move it over. And I actually see you can sort of see that I'm now continuing the line. And generally that's it. So what I've done then is blend it around. There's one more spot right here because I'm a little bit nitpicky. I just got to add that back in, blend that back in, lower my opacity to blend it in towards the white. And I'm going to come from this side now and just kind of creep over and give that a little bit more And we see we're starting to form circles. That's where I know I need to lower my opacity, do a little bit better job blending, but you're getting the idea for the purpose of this tutorial. Move it in, kind of maybe directly across so that it works a little bit better together. And generally that's it. I mean, I could do a much better job around the whiskers. We could increase that opacity. And we'll just take some whisker and we'll move it back over top just to continue the whisker pattern. And I mean, the more I'm clicking here, the worse I'm doing, obviously, but you get the general gist of it on the clone stamp tool. And we'll just bring that in. If you ever right click by accident at the same time, you'll remove the option menu. So you come back in here and you can just add tool options back. And now I can see it again. So I'm just going to take opacity down and just sort of creep in. So generally that's the idea. That's how the Cage Transform tool works. You can do something interesting like this, expand an area. And I mean, sky's the limit. You could do a mouth, a nose. This was the eye. Any aspect of your image that you'd like to make look distorted. And again, it's deforming inside your selection. So you have to join up your square at the end. Your selection has to join as one, close the loop, in other words, to make that active selection. And then you can manipulate it with the handles. And the second one was the clone stamp tool we briefly used to give you an introduction into what you'll be going into next. And we were able to do some nice touch-ups around here, minus this area, but nice touch-ups around to kind of blend that in, make the eye look a little more realistic. And those two tools you can go ahead and practice with. Practice makes perfect, and enjoy yourself.